How did your husband react when you told him you were pregnant? I was terrified to tell my husband Matt about the pregnancy. We'd been married for 3 years, but money was always tight. He worked double shifts at the factory, and I was barely making ends meet as a substitute teacher. We talked about kids someday, but not now. Not when we were living paycheck to paycheck in a one-bedroom apartment with a leaky ceiling and a car that needed major repairs. I practiced the words in my head for 2 weeks. Every time I tried to bring it up, something would happen. The electric bill would come in higher than expected, or his boss would threaten layoffs again. Finally, I couldn't wait anymore. I was 12 weeks along and starting to show. I made his favorite dinner, pot roast with mashed potatoes, and waited for him to get home from his evening shift. When he walked through the door at 11 p.m., exhausted and covered in grease stains, I handed him the pregnancy test without saying a word. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it. He stared at the little plus sign for what felt like forever. His face went completely blank. Then he sat down heavily on our old couch and put his head in his hands. How are we gonna afford this? He whispered. We can barely afford groceries. The rent's going up next month and my hours might get cut again. I started crying. Not happy tears, scared tears. This wasn't how I'd imagined telling him. I thought maybe he'd be excited, or at least smile. Instead, he looked like I'd just told him we were going to lose everything. For the next 3 days, Matt barely spoke to me. He'd come home from work, eat dinner in silence, and fall asleep watching TV. I started wondering if this pregnancy was going to end our marriage. Then on Thursday night, I woke up around 2 a.m. and realized he wasn't in bed. I found him sitting at our kitchen table with a calculator, surrounded by bills and notebook paper covered in numbers. He'd been awake for hours, figuring out a budget. On one piece of paper, he'd written down every possible way to save money. Cancel cable, shop at discount stores, fix his own car instead of going to a mechanic. On another paper, he'd calculated exactly how much money we'd need for doctor visits, baby supplies, and my unpaid maternity leave. Then he'd mapped out a plan to pick up extra weekend shifts and maybe do some side work fixing appliances. I've been thinking, he said when he saw me standing there in my pajamas. My dad worked 3 jobs when I was born. If he could do it, so can I. He pulled out a third piece of paper. It was a list of everything he wanted to teach our kid. How to ride a bike, how to fish, how to fix things with your hands, how to be honest even when it's hard. At the bottom he'd written, most important, how to love someone even when you're scared. He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. I'm sorry I freaked out. I'm not scared of having a baby. I'm scared of not being good enough to be somebody's dad. The next morning, Matt left for work an hour early. When I got up, there was a note on the refrigerator that said, baby's first doctor appointment is next Tuesday at 3 p.m. I already asked for the afternoon off. Under that, he'd taped a tiny